much for coming. I'm Jake Maines. All right, so what words do you associate with financial advisors, realtors, and multi-level marketers?
Money.
Network. All right. Well, I was going to go with negative or sales.
Okay, we'll take that.
But why? It's not because of what they sell. It's the common approach to how they sell. When it's all they post on social media, it gets annoying. When every other month they're reaching out to you with their sales pitch, it rubs people the wrong way. Even though the people that they're getting in front of are their target audience, people don't want to be sold to, so the approach creates a bad taste in their mouth. It's okay, we'll forgive that one. Don't get me wrong, plenty of these folks are great people. Jacinta and I are in the industry. It's just that so many of them are selling and marketing the same way. So if all we're doing is shoving whatever we're selling down people's throats, they're gonna look at us as spam, ignore our calls, and swipe left. So do the opposite. Position yourself as an expert, and by consistently adding value for your prospects in a non-salesy way, they'll think of you when they're ready to buy your thingamajig. Creating an event and inviting an audience that you aren't selling to right away can make your life easier and make you more money. So I make a living helping people buy and sell homes, and while I'm great at negotiating offers and getting homes sold, I hate feeling like I'm having to pull teeth to convince someone to work with me. So when I decided to leave my 9-to-5 and build a business of my own, I needed a way to set myself apart, grow my network, and stay top of mind. I definitely didn't want to be hitting up my friends every few months to say, hey, thinking about buying a house anytime soon? I always had a negative impression of realtors because I thought of them as salesy, and I was even hesitant to introduce myself as one. So I had to find a way to attract clients without being annoying. Fast forward 2 years, and now I host the biggest networking event in the region, and I have a pretty consistent stream of referrals coming my way without pitching how I make money. Fortunately, I had a bit of a leg up, having studied and worked in marketing for a few years before getting into real estate. But lucky for you, you don't need a degree in marketing for this to work for your business. And today I'm going to give you the secret sauce.
What is secret sauce?
Sure.
Is it quiet back there?
On my end.
All right, for the secret sauce.
The suspense is killing me.
I was going a little too fast, this is good, so let's slow it up a little bit. All right, so this secret sauce isn't just hosting your own networking event. There are actually quite a few types of events that fit the bill. First up are the tried and true webinars, podcasts, vlogs, and live events like on Facebook, YouTube, and LinkedIn. Online events are a great way to get attention and set yourself apart. When I arrived at ODU, I knew I eventually wanted to start my own business, but I had no idea what that business would be. I did know that whatever the business, marketing would be key. Upon graduation, I still wasn't sure what type of business I wanted to start, so I worked as the marketing manager at a small staffing company that specialized in helping companies hire people for positions overseas. We set out to be known as the experts in human resources. One way we achieved this was through webinars. We'd come up with a clever topic that our prospects were searching for and that they needed more information on. Maybe something like how to handle payroll when your employees are in different countries. So we'd pick a date and a time, and we'd create a landing page with a cool teaser video and a way for people to register. Then we'd promote the hell out of it on social media and to our email list. Leading up to the event, we'd send reminder emails, typically a day before, an hour before, and at the time the event was starting. There'd be a specific link that allowed only the people who had registered for the event to access the content. And the webinars would be anywhere from half an hour to an hour and packed with information. At the tail end, we'd have a call to action about working with us, and then we'd wrap things up. A day later, we'd send out the recording, and a few days later, we'd follow up with a phone call. Everyone was also added to our email drip campaign so that we were consistently staying top of mind by sending valuable content as well as invitations to future events. A few years later, I had shifted to a role as the creative director at a marketing agency in Chesapeake. Once again, we set out to be known as the experts in our industry. We had niched into offering digital marketing services for law firms, and we were hosting weekly podcasts to get in front of those lawyers. So while we all dreamt about this thing getting legs and being as big as the Joe Rogan podcast when we hit record on our first episode, it was safe to say that 200 million listeners wasn't in the cards for us. There were a few key things that these podcasts were achieving. So we'd seek out a law firm that had a crappy website or ads that weren't performing well, and we'd invite them to come on the show, and we'd talk about how they got started, to things they were doing to set themselves apart, or the struggles they were having. We wouldn't even really touch on the website or the ads on the podcast. We'd just talk about the things that they wanted to talk about, the things that they were doing in their business to be unique and to be trendsetters in the industry. This meant that each week we'd have a different guest on the show that fit the criteria of our ideal client, and we'd be able to spend 30 to 60 minutes with them in a non-salesy environment, building rapport. These podcasts gave us a reason to reach out to prospects for something other than a sales pitch. It made them feel great, and it gave us a ton of quality content where we weren't the only ones talking to the camera each week. It kept the content unique and interesting every time. Gaining followers and subscribers is great, but having that one-on-one time with an ideal prospect is arguably the most important thing you can achieve when hosting an online event. It was definitely the thing that set apart the webinars we talked about at the last job to these podcasts. So whether you have one listener or 1,000 listeners, you have the opportunity to spend 30 plus minutes of quality one-on-one time with your prospect in a non-salesy environment. And almost anyone you ask will say yes when you invite them to come onto the show. You'd be surprised how many people will see it as an honor. I mean, I'm pretty grateful to be up here speaking to you guys, so thank you for the invite. While the interviews were key, staying top of mind with our audience was also at the forefront. We were creating consistent content to blast out on social media and via email, as well as have our guests share it to their social channels and to their email list to expand the reach even further. We'd host the event itself on Facebook Live and YouTube Live, and then the recordings would be uploaded to all the typical podcast platforms like Spotify and Apple Music. We'd then take the full video recordings and we'd chop them up into the best 60-second, 30-second, and 15-second snippets, and we would distribute that across all of our social channels. With a simple 1 hour long interview with an ideal prospect each week, we'd have way more content than we could handle distributing, making it super easy to stay top of mind and position ourselves as an industry leader with our network without selling. Clearly, with all this great content, our followers and subscribers were growing too. We'd include a simple call to action in the beginning and the end of each episode, and since all we were doing was adding value, not pitching anything, it was a super easy ask. So the industry you're in has very little bearing on whether your online event will be successful. So invite your first guest and hit record. If your eyes get tired from too much screen time and you'd prefer an in-person focus for your events, then now's the time to tune in. You guys look very attentive though, so appreciate that. So some of the concepts we talked about will still hold true for your in-person events, but they can clearly be a different beast. You're dealing with getting people off their couch and into your office or a stadium if you're thinking big. But obviously you all are here bright-eyed and bushy-tailed to hear me speak, so yeah, it does work. Lunch and Learns, a table for 10, workshops, and a keynote address are all great ways to take all of the benefits of the online events and have a face-to-face, into a face-to-face environment. So let's rewind back again to my days at the marketing agency in Chesapeake. Before we niched into a focus on marketing for law firms, we were handling the marketing for all sorts of clients locally. We wanted to be known as the experts in digital marketing in Hampton Roads, and in-person events were great for this. We hosted a monthly event at Waterside where we invited business owners and marketing professionals who wanted to learn about the latest trends in the marketing world. We'd have a different guest speaker each time who would provide their unique perspective, and folks would enjoy lunch on their own dime. In this case, the guest speaker wasn't always a prospect, but sometimes it worked out where they were. The audience was actually our real focus here. And when I say audience, it wasn't the 30 to 60 people showing up to the event each time. It was the several hundred that were on the invite list. These people on the invite list were all people who may eventually sub out their digital marketing to us. And this event allowed us to position our brand as the ones who were keeping everyone in the loop on the latest trends in digital marketing in the 757. It gave us the opportunity to stay top of mind with invites and reminders about the events, as well as follow up with video recordings of the presentations. And we were also able to repurpose again those snippets of the recordings across all of our social channels. Once again, the person who presented would help us to also promote all of the content across their social channels into their email list. And we were the ones introducing the speaker or speakers, so we had an opportunity to plug our business again there. Another in-person event that we hosted, we called the State of Digital Marketing Address. So instead of a monthly meetup, this event, our goal was to pack out a room with 300 people. It was an annual event, and we'd have a couple people from our team talk about the latest trends in digital marketing. The upfront promotion was similar with ads and social media posting and emails, but in this case, we were selling tickets, so we obviously wanted to have them register up front as opposed to just showing up. This event sold out twice. The first time, we were snowed out. We rescheduled for a few weeks later, and unfortunately we had lackluster attendance because it was the day before the world shut down for COVID. So it gave us a great opportunity to have multiple touch points with our prospects leading up to the event, but it was still a big bummer that it didn't go as smoothly as we had hoped. So it's safe to say that even with the best promotion in the world, you're not safe from a global pandemic or the weather. Outside of the acts of God, a good way to set expectations for your event is to charge a little bit up front so you can gauge attendance. Learning is cool and all, but sometimes all we want is a party. As COVID was in full swing, I had a lot of downtime and I decided to get my real estate license to facilitate my own investing in real estate. Things were still going well at the marketing agency, and I had really no intention of becoming a full-fledged realtor. That was until I surpassed my salary there, helping just a few friends buy homes in that first year. All joking aside, I had a taste of being back out from behind the computer and interacting with clients face-to-face, and I remembered how much I loved that. The thing that I really enjoy about marketing is taking nothing and turning it into something, and I saw an opportunity to do that for a business of my own. So, after dabbling with real estate part-time for a year, I became my own boss. With real estate, just about everyone within a 40-mile radius of me is my target audience. I knew I had to avoid all that nonsense sales crap we talked about earlier, and I also realized I was really good at connecting people with each other. I also knew that I loved to throw a party. At the time, most networking events were pretty lackluster, and everyone was really tired of the Zoom meetings. So I rolled out networking happy hour. I was also inspired by the event that Heather was throwing at the time. She was hosting a little networking event, which wasn't super lame, but there were a lot of lame ones. So networking happy hour, which a lot of you have been to, is a low-key, no-agenda event where people just show up to a different bar or restaurant each month to connect with each other. There's no presentation or pitch. It gives me the opportunity to add value by helping people grow their business, support local restaurants, raise money for nonprofits, and stay top of mind with ongoing reminders and fun tips about marketing and networking. I have not sent a single email pitching my real estate services, and my business is now primarily built on the referrals that I'm getting from the network that I built. In fact, as opposed to sending any content about real estate, I'm positioning myself as an expert in marketing and networking. I'll send reminders about the events along with suggestions on how people can set themselves apart in the business world. I do this because I want people to view me in a positive light. If I start selling in my marketing, people will typically look at me negative. So the marketing advice is actually a nice subtle tie-in because marketing plays such a pivotal role in real estate. And I love the investing side of real estate, so it's been great to get to interact with business-savvy people who are more inclined to invest in real estate. The one thing that sets these events apart is consistency. And this holds true for really anything that you're doing. Because of the consistency in the sending of the invites and the follow-up, the number of attendees have grown from 35 when I first started hosting the events to well over 100 at the most recent events. The growing number of attendees is killer, but just as important is the growth of the invite list. I'm able to stay top of mind with all of these people each month, and now the list has grown to well over 5,000 people. So whether you're showing up in person or you're just on the list, I'm still able to stay top of mind. I had someone tell me at the last event that they've been on the list for a year and it was their first event they were attending. They knew all about me and they actually quoted one of the tips that I had sent out. People also really like inviting others to my events. It actually positions them as the one adding value because once the person that they've invited is making a bunch of connections, they'll think back and they'll think positively of that person who originally invited them. While consistency plays a pivotal role, so does sincerity. If you're just hosting the event or attending the event to check it off your to-do list, and you're so focused on the next sale that you can't have a genuine conversation with someone, why bother? People will notice the lack of sincerity and they aren't going to be eager to do business with you, and they sure as hell aren't going to be eager to refer others to you. Focus on building lasting relationships and you'll end up with not just business connections, but friends too. While it seems simple, one thing that you can do is quit asking people what they do for a living as the first thing that you ask them. It's the go-to for most people. So by coming up with a unique opener, you can end up having a more engaging conversation that the other person will actually want to be a part of. I like to talk about recent or upcoming vacations when I meet new people. Sometimes I'll break out my buddy Zach's go-to, what are you watching on Netflix? In today's day and age, you get a very brief opportunity to make a lasting impression. If these first few seconds make such an impact, why choose an opening sentence that isn't going to make an impact? A unique intro gives you a more unique follow-up when you touch base the next day. And as we're talking about today, the follow-up game is half the battle. Next time you exchange business cards with someone, give them a call the next day and tie things back to that original conversation. I like to take it a step further and invite them out to lunch. Get to know them over a good meal and leave the sales pitch at home. My favorite lunch spot is not local, but is Chipotle. If I'm choosing local, it's Mazari Kebab. In that same vein of being unique, set yourself apart by not blending into the crowd. Standing out can be simple. It could be a special pin or a scarf or a funky tie. You could go the extreme route of wearing the same thing every day like Mark Zuckerberg and Steve Jobs. Both have been said to wear the same thing every day to not waste brain cells. Smart. Would get pretty boring for me, so I go with the good old floral shirts and switch it up. So whether you decide to start rocking a unique outfit or you do decide to host an event of your own, to stay top of mind with your prospects. Be consistent and sincere, and the sales will come. I know it can be hard to wait on the next paycheck, and you'll get the urge to stray back to the good old days of dialing for dollars, but this does work, and it can work for you. Any questions? That's it. My signature does say Realtor in Virginia and North Carolina. Yeah. But other than that, no, I haven't. One time I said, hey, I'm doing some work on this new house I bought, and that was kind of subtle just to tie into me. But other than that, no, I haven't really mentioned anything about real estate. At the events, people ask, oh, what do I do? And so people know what I do, but I've never pitched it.
How do you choose your venues, and do you give them a heads up that they're about to get snowed under by having?
Yes, so I try to pick a place that is close to the interstate, has enough parking, and can accommodate, at this point, 100 people. And I definitely give them a heads up, and then I give them a reminder call the week before to say, hey, still expecting me? Because people they underestimate that I'm actually going to bring that many people, and then they don't staff enough people.
So I was wondering, how are you building your email list? Because it doesn't seem like you're like getting people to sign in and stuff at your event.
So when you walk in, there is a bucket, and people will write. I say, put your business card in here, or there's a notepad. If they don't have a business card, write your name, email, phone number, and add that to it. I also have an Eventbrite that attracts maybe 10 to 15 signups, just random out on the internet. I've created a landing page for this where if you search networking happy hour, I'm the #1 result on Google, and people will sign up off of that. So there's and then, like I said, people like to refer other people to the event. So I tell them, send them to networkinghh.com, and there's a registration page, and people sign up, and yeah. Cool.
What I find most unique about what you've done is you haven't used social media to grow. Do you think that is, obviously that's strategic, but would you have changed it going back, or?
No, I would not. I just need to get more pictures of myself out and about doing fun things and be more consistent with my posting, but I really try to stray away from posting pictures of houses or things like that. And I'll subtly post the pictures of my events, but I think I want to be more consistent with my overall posting, at least once a week. But I wouldn't go back and add more of, hey, this is what I do for a living. I posted a picture of me at the crab at Margie and Ray's the other day, and somebody messaged me on Facebook, and they're like, hey, my house has been sitting on the market with a realtor for a month and a half. Can we talk? I'm like, yeah, great. Just by that subtle, he knows that I'm a realtor because, I've been doing it for a couple years now, and he reached out about it. Thanks.
Jake, how do you scrub your 6,000 person list?
I get bounces, and then I send them to my assistant to remove from the list.
Will it take duplicates out? So if everybody's signing up at the event, and then you get people to sign up again, and they get to sign up again.
When we are adding them to the list, we do a Control F and make sure that they're not already on the list. Yeah. And then we just, sometimes when we have time, we'll organize it by email address and try to make sure that there's no duplicates in there.
If you use something like MailerLite or Constant Contact, they do.
Well, that's what I was wondering.
Yeah,
I don't
they
use
can
that, though.
Uses
Yeah.
Outlook, right? You just use
No,
Outlook.
I use a plugin for Gmail that allows me to send it directly from my Gmail, because if you are sending it from Constant Contact, you get significantly lower open rate.
Yeah, Constant Contact and will get flagged on many corporate accounts and will not let it go through the firewall to get to your person. if they weren't for a corporation.
But I also face now that with the list being so large, now I'm the one having issues with my email because I'm sending out, you can only send out 2,000 emails a day, so I have to spread these emails over a week that I'm sending out.
What's that plugin? Do you know the name of it?
Mail Track, I think, is the one that I'm using. There's a couple that are just Chrome extensions that it's great that you can use it even if you're not sending out a mass email. You can just add it and you can track if people are opening your individual emails. Yeah.
What about Salesforce? Does that get flagged as well too?
I have not heard Salesforce getting flagged. We use our ConnectWise so that we don't get flagged because we were getting flagged using Atlantic Office Technologies.com. We started getting flagged, so we use our.
I think our CRM system in Salesforce is kind of related in like the AWS background, so
Yeah.
it's pretty much the same thing, so it doesn't get flagged.
Yeah. And Jake also got 200, he got in front of 200 people at first bingo by putting his name up. So
Yeah,
that's a
so-
good thing to do.
On that note, I would be systematic with the things that you're sponsoring and advertising. I knew that I was going to know people at that event, so that's why I would put money towards that. But sponsoring maybe a random golf tournament that I'm not even going to attend or be in front of, I'm not a big brand like Geico at this point, so I'm systematic with where I'm investing money. I'm heavily involved with the Noblemen, so I sponsor a lot of things there that that I can get in front of that group and still help kids as well. Anybody have any other questions?
All right, well, thank you, sir.
Yeah, thank you.
I appreciate it very much.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It is always the first Wednesday of the month, so October 3rd.